This Friday marks 1 year since Russian President Vladimir Putin launched his invasion of Ukraine. And Susanna is in the capital city of Kyiv, where she's been meeting remarkable women and children who survived one of the worst attacks.
Let's say good morning to Susanna once again this hour. Hi there, Susanna. It really is brilliant to see you out there, because I think there's something about seeing it firsthand, isn't there? Because we sit here in a studio and we talk to experts, but being there and looking in the whites of the eyes of those people who have suffered and are still suffering must be very impactful on your understanding of the situation. And what have people been telling you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, our correspondent, Richard Gaisford in particular, who of course is out in the East and has covered the conflict, has done such an amazing job, and we've seen his reports on our screens. But nothing really prepared me for what I was able to witness myself in this place, Borodyanka. Now, it is a town on the road into Kyiv, and it is still largely in ruins. The homes of hundreds of normal people blown apart. These are not military targets. They're not stores of ammunition. They're homes of children, of elderly grandparents living with their families, all destroyed a year ago as part of that early and vicious assault on the capital. War continues to rage right now in the east and the south of the country. And at the weekend, the US Vice President, Kamala Harris, said Russia has committed crimes against humanity. And there are places where that appears to have happened here, whose names from the early days of the war still hold trauma and horror. Place names like Bucha, Mariupol, and Borodyanka. I tried to kind of get an idea of what would this place be like? What's the comparison in the UK? Now, I grew up in Purley, just outside of London. Borodyanka is the same size of population and distance from the capital as Purley. Or think of somewhere like Hale outside Manchester, or Morpeth near Newcastle. And in this place, residents still, literally, right now, picking up the pieces.
Despite its scars, Borodyanka is healing. The small commuter town an hour's drive north of Kyiv was one of the first places to come under Russian occupation. The residents know how bad that can be, and this week those memories are raw. 1 year ago, for a month, Russian tanks rolled in. Soldiers roamed the streets and homes were destroyed from the sky. It looked like the beginning of the fall of Kyiv, but it failed.
The
city of Borodyanka is one of the many victims of this crime. Behind me is one of the many witnesses. Not a military facility, not a secret base, but a simple 9-story building. Can it pose a security threat to Russia?
9 months after the president made that speech in this spot, the residents who lived here are still trying to recover and find what hope they can in the wreckage of their homes.
People like 10-year-old Veronica, whose home was destroyed. She still returns every day to look for her cat and feed the stray pets she meets in the rubble.
There was a cat, they find him alive. He's still alive, but you do not want to come home.
Veronica used to live on the top floor with her mum and dad. On the 2nd of March, they were sheltering on the outskirts of the town when their home was blown to pieces by a Russian missile. A butterfly duvet cover is all that's left of her childhood bedroom, and a year on it still hangs as a forlorn reminder of her previous life.
Where do you live now, Veronica?
1-room flat.
You and mum and dad all together. Is that very different from your flat here?
Flat with 3 rooms, but now that's only one room.
Veronica and her family may have lost their home, but at least 20 people died here. That makes her one of the lucky ones. A mile further down the road, more loss. Tatiana can hardly bear to be back. She lived here with her 2 sons, their wives, and her grandchildren, including 10-year-old Melania. Memories of the missiles reduce her to tears. She'd left the bunker that night to get supplies.
She has no family.
Why doesn't she have any family?
because her son and his wife died in this shelter.
A choice made in a split second where to find safety that decided their fate. 16-year-old Katya almost made that decision. She tried to get into the same basement, but didn't make it, so took shelter opposite.
There were like 50 people and everyone survived.
What did it feel like to be in that shelter that night?
I was so scared. We heard a loud sound and everything got black and we didn't see nothing and no one, and then we realized that we got a bomb. It was this bomb which destroyed this one.
Katya, if you had gone into that shelter, it might have been very different.
We wanted to go to this shelter because this one was better, but we didn't have time. When I came out, this house was completely destroyed. Everyone was really scared and afraid. We go to a little lake, and we were hiding there because there were some helicopters in the sky, and they were shouting.
They were firing?
Yes.
And shooting?
At us. And we were hiding.
I mean, that's terrifying, Katya.
Yes.
Those that survived have the task of rebuilding their homes, their families and their country, still partially occupied and all under threat. The constant reminder of the destruction witnessed here is a heavy weight for Borodyanka to bear. But visits from the president and even from renowned street artist Banksy have provided the town with hope.
What do you think that represents? Because to me, that looks like Putin being overthrown by Ukraine.
Maybe it makes sense. Like big Russia and little Ukraine.
Big Russia and little Ukraine. But who's winning?
Ukraine, of course.
Well, the People's Deputy for Borodyanka, the equivalent of their MP, Olga Vasilevska-Smalyuk, was in Kyiv when Russian troops invaded her country. She organised the evacuation of people trapped in her hometown. Joins me now. Olga, Kamala Harris said at the weekend that there were crimes against humanity committed by Russia. Did that happen in Borodyanka? Do you consider it a war crime?
Yeah, we consider it like a war crime, and when we saw this video, I cried because I remembered all stories that I saw by my eyes. And we saw after Borodyanka was deoccupied and the Russian soldiers came back, we saw tortured people, we saw mass graves. We saw mass graves. There are a few mass graves in Borodyanka, as in Bucha we have seen. And also now we try to gather all the materials and to detect soldiers, Russian soldiers who convicted these crimes.
So it's not enough to say it's a war crime. You want to gather the evidence to prosecute those who perpetrated the war crime and hold them responsible.
Yeah, and we are working with the prosecutors and our cyber police to detect people who made these crimes and gather these materials for Hague. So we are working about it now.
It's almost exactly a year since the invasion, since the occupation of Borodyanka, your home. What does this feel like to you, this anniversary? Obviously memories of what happened, but do you have fears about what might happen on the anniversary, what Putin might do?
I still don't realize that the war now happens. I felt helpless. I couldn't help people to survive, and a small thing I could do is to provide buses for evacuation people and to help them with food, medical supplement, and some home for a small period of time. And now we are working for the renovation. We restore buildings, flats. We restore some bomb shelters in schools. Because our children, they doesn't study all this time during this war. They have no safe place to study.
But a number of people we spoke to yesterday were worried about what might happen this week. Are you worried? Does Putin have a focus on the anniversary? Is he going to threaten, do you think, the people again here in Kyiv?
We prepare for it because we know that Putin and his soldiers, his army, they like anniversaries, you know. And we prepare, my children stay at home, they don't go to school because we are afraid of new attacks. But we hope to win in this war.
Of course. And what do you want? We know that the EU leaders are meeting. There was the Munich conference over the weekend. What do you want your Western allies to do right now?
We need more weapon, more and more weapon, because our soldiers are very strong, but without help with aircrafts and new strikes, we can't win this war, and we can't stand. Only with the help of our allies.
What do you make of what the UK has done so far in the past year?
UK made much more for other countries to understand that we need help and we need allies. Because Russia has its allies in Iran and China and other countries, but we don't want to be as small as ugly brother of Russia. That's why we are standing here near you, and we hope to appear in the European Union.
It's obviously windy up here at the top of our position. Olga, all the very best, and thank you very much indeed for talking to us, the representative from Borodyanka. It's very hard when you see it with your own eyes, and you see on the faces, particularly of the children, what happened to them and what happened in Borodyanka. It was a haunting scene yesterday, and I can only imagine what it is like for you who witnessed it. Olga, thank you so much.
Glory to Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to you.
Susanna, thank you so much. It is really insightful seeing you there and having those conversations. We've got plenty more from Susanna to come in the show, haven't we?
Good.